I turned a disgraced YouTuber into my anime rival. Flamco TV, maybe you've heard of him, or more likely you've heard people yelling about him.
Parents had to bribe you to stop streaming with your dead grandparents' money.
No.
That's what it says right there. We just read it.
If I had to bet money...
Okay, 100%. But that's the thing. You say if you had to bet money, but you say there's proof, and there's no fucking proof.
In internet lately, so...
Whoa, we
peace
didn't
out,
ask
guys.
for an autobiography.
Yes,
Thank you. We'll find you online. Have fun. Peace out. Goodbye. Jesus.
Despite finding decent success on YouTube covering VTuber news, Flamco has had a bit of a reputational dive, to say the least, but this video isn't about him, it's about me. And imagine my shock when I chanced upon a lobby on Advance Wars by Web titled First Time, with the name Flamco TV sitting in it. I joined it, and as soon as the match started, I immediately messaged him, "Wow, I can't believe I'm playing against the real Flamco TV," to which he responded that it is actually him, Flamco TV, and I didn't actually expect this entirely. I thought it was about a 50-50 because his reputation is so bad that I would have expected him to just use a different username on any website ever, especially given that he had just created it immediately after several controversies, but to be completely fair, no one ever accused him of being smart.
You are retarded! You're a fucking brain dead with no fucking brain! You are
It's really embarrassing.
He then messaged me again, asking if I actually knew who he was, as if I'm the type of person to just pretend like the random person I'm playing against is a YouTuber that I'm familiar with. I would never do that. I would never, that would be a very bizarre joke to do, just to go up to random people that you match up against and just pretend that they're actually a YouTuber that I know. That would be a weird joke. It would definitely be very weird if I had a long history of doing that before this ever happened. That would be ironic. Anyway, back to business. I'm pretty good at Advance Wars, so it might seem like I joined his match just to bully a content creator I don't like. But in my defense, he has a significant advantage because he picked the worst map I have ever seen. Don't know what I mean? Well, take a look at the map. It's perfectly symmetrical. That means it's fair, right? Wrong. In pretty much any turn-based game ever, player one has an inherent advantage. You get your first turn first, you get your second turn first, you get every turn first, and normally this is offset by giving player two one infantry. By giving player two one starting infantry, they're essentially ahead from one side and behind on the other. But on this map, player one has initiative from both bases, and on your first turn, you start with 8,000 gold, which is a lot. And the worst part is that this map has exactly one contested area, and if you take it, you'll be up ahead another 4,000 gold, and the game will basically inevitably be won, unless you're a terrible player or at a significant CO disadvantage. I apologize for the slight change of pace. I realize that live content is not exactly my forte, but I'm gonna have to take the DISGRACED pill on this one and just try to go about it because this replay viewer is so great with a cursor and I can coordinate the movements so much easier than I can in post-production. And so, without further ado, Flamco has chosen Hawk, who has 10% bonus firepower at all times. I have chosen Sasha, who gets an extra 10% income. It's an extra 100 income per property, but in standard funds, that means 10%. Now, Sasha is actually the natural predator of Hawk, and that's because her normal power, which can be used once enough conflict has occurred to fill up these two gauges right here, then she can use it to drain the powers of others. That's what her power does. Now, any power activation also gives you 10% firepower and 10% defense for the next turn, but hers will drain the other person's power. So while Hawk does have some very devastating powers, deal 1, heal 1, and deal 2, heal 2, when he fills these up respectively, you're not going to see them very often, and that's because I'm going to be draining the powers way before he can actually get his. And so Sasha has a pretty good matchup. The real reason that I picked Sasha, though, was just because of the 10% added income, so that I could very quickly sort of minimize the difference between our economies, because he starts with 8,000 gold effectively more than me. Moving into my next builds, I actually build infantry APC. He opts for double infantry opener, which is what you do in almost every case, but I believe that this is a better map for APC infantry. Normally that's not possible because you start with 3,000 gold or 4,000 if it's high funds, something like that. So you can't build an APC. They cost 5,000. So this is a pretty big initial investment, but you'll see what I can do with it on the next turn. So he tries to copy me, and he actually makes a mistake. This APC is not in the same position as my APC. It's built from the other base. These are mirrored. They're split and mirrored. So he should have built it on the bottom property, but he didn't know what I was going to do with it. So, you know, it's not like this is a super big misplay. But you can see I run up all the way over here. I could have gone much further, but I just need to drop off my infantry right here. And that's because that's as far as I need to go with this APC. I'll be taking it up on the next turn. I'll be taking it up on the next turn. And on his turn, he tries to do something similar. He goes further, and of course he wants to get this base so that we can produce some more units. But he didn't really need to do that, because he could have just gotten the base here. Ultimately, this APC for him will do a lot less than what mine will do for me. So as you can see, I actually show off a mechanic here to him. That was intentional. So when in Advance Wars by Web, not in the actual games, unloading any transport does not take an action. You can load these up with infantry and unload them with infantry, and it doesn't take up the action. You can do it before your turn, you can do it after your turn, well, after your movement of this unit, or before it, and the APC is still able to move. So I move with it, and I move it down here. The reason that I do so is because I want the infantry that spawns here to be able to get up and go north. This one is already going to be in range of these things. And so I only did this little boost just to show it off to him, because I figured it was a mechanic that he might have known about if he had gotten into this via YouTube videos, but he might not if he had gotten into it using the actual game. And as you can see, he doesn't do a boost. You should always do a boost. In this case, he could have just dropped off here and he would have been right in range for the next property. So a boost would have really helped him out, but didn't know to do it. So now I am in range of the airport already, and I'm going to start capping properties, but I do have an income disadvantage. You're going to see he's capping 2 properties on this turn. I'm only capping 1 on my next turn, so even though I have that 10% boost, because I did everything in this order, he actually has an economy advantage. And I had built a Neo-Tank up front because you get so much economy from starting with so many properties in this map that I felt like a Neo-Tank was good. He follows suit with a Neo-Tank and a tank, which really hurts. I had half a mind to try and blow up this pipe seam here, which would allow me access to my version of this property. I don't know if the one on my side is going to be covered in editing. I might do that. So, because spoilers, we don't go there. You know, I just move straight away because I realize, oh, he's got a Neo-Tank, he's got a tank, I got to start moving forward. And I really only have money for this recon here. I could have built the tank, I could have, but I need to get my butt in here because he's got his APC on the way. He's going to get to those center properties, and I need to be there in order to interrupt them. So he builds an artillery. This is smart. He's actually got me worried because he's playing very smart up until this point. Now, he's not playing as smart as I am, but I'm being very thorough with my considerations. We are playing this live. We are both doing it very, very quickly. Like, our turns are taking 2 or 3 minutes each at most. But, like, this is a smart turn. Everything up until now is smart. The one dumb thing that he does right now is he ends turn without building from these two bases. He could have built 2 infantry. That's pretty much the only thing. He could have done 1 infantry, 1 recon as well, which would have been fine. But he should have built 2 infantry. And the reason is you don't really ever stop building infantry. I can tell from this point that he actually had been introduced to the game via the console games, the cartridge games, which I have not ever played. Well, I mean, I played a little bit just so I could get footage. And I know that when you're playing those games, you don't really need to build from your faraway bases. They generally have like weird like bases like up here and over here where, you know, you just get those bases and then you don't need to build from the ones far back anymore because you're going to finish the mission before anything can come from those. That's not the case in multiplayer because the multiplayer, like the person you're playing against, the real person you're playing against is not going to give up. They're not going to be silly. And they're not going to make it easy on you. So right now we have a great formation by him. To be honest, he should just be able to plop right here, I believe. And I don't know, maybe he could plop, I think maybe right here is the safest one. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I feel like he has some valid forms of aggression here because he can block certain properties with the APC. So he should be able to sit on one of these, start capturing the property, and then I won't be able to hit back. But he actually retreats, which is really, really bad. Builds a rocket. That's pretty smart. Rocket is actually decent on this map because it's so linear that there's no way to avoid it. But I think artillery is probably better. That's the big problem with rockets. They have 5 range, or they have 3 to 5 range, as opposed to an artillery which has 2 to 3 range. But the damage is pretty similar. The movement is actually in artillery's favor. 3, 4, 5. Rockets have 5 movement, but they have a worse movement type than artillery, I believe. And so the artillery, it's like 6,000 versus 15,000. You don't need to spend the extra for the rockets. Artillery does the job. And so I go on capturing. You can see I've already got this airport up here, so I'm going to be building a transport copter, not this turn, but the next turn, so that I can ferry this infantry, start getting them over onto this middle property. And you can see Flamco is just not there yet. He's not where I'm at yet when it comes to these edges. But in the middle, things are heating up, and it's getting really tense. He's slowly moving forward, and I sort of think like, ooh, I can pop that. I can pop that infantry, and I can go in with my recon, and then, you know, then what? I don't know. Then maybe I lose the game if I do that. But I'm witnessing it, and I'm just like, let me just put a little bait here. This is bait. This is bait because I'm going to protect it. You can see I've got this artillery just barely covering it. I've got this Neo tank. It's covering it. So if he comes in and if he smacks me, it's not going to turn out so well. And he does it. He even does it with the tank, and it's like, okay, that's not a great trade, but it works out. And there you go. He tries to build a formation around it, but his med tank, ooh, it's just out of range. If this were an artillery, you could have afforded a Neo tank, and now I'm like kind of confident in myself because even though he has much stronger units compared to me, he has way fewer. It's 15 to 21. That's not good at all. And I'm going to get these properties first. And then I'm going to ferry it over and get this property. Like, and I get that amazing shot with the artillery. This is a pretty bad shot, but, you got to make progress sometimes. And boom, there goes the artillery. And I've already got my power. So he's a market crash. You can see his power gauge goes down to nothing. Get an extra 10% firepower and defense. And boom, exposed his artillery to the recon. It's not a price that you want to pay. So at this point, I'm feeling a little bit confident. I'm thinking, okay, game's probably won because that's just not a strong showing. He does have his battlecopter coming in, so I build my own battlecopter on the last turn. Forgot to mention that. But basically, I'll be there just in time to counter his battlecopter. So he starts getting some nice shots in. It's tough to say, like, if this were in better hands, could this situation be salvaged? And I don't know if the answer is yes. I don't know if you gave this position to the best Advanced Wars player in the game at this point. I really don't think that they could salvage it. And it's crazy how we went from objective advantage to having things that would have been very difficult for me to break through just a few turns ago to a crushing defeat. Which just goes to show how much nuance there is to Advance Wars by Webplay, like how precise you have to be, because he didn't play super poorly for a first timer. This was actually the best first time player I think I've ever played against. But when I played for the first time as well, I had watched quite a few YouTube videos, and so I really knew what I was doing. And so I wasn't surprised at all to see that he was actually pretty good, but he just doesn't have what it takes in this circumstance to come back from this. And he certainly doesn't if he keeps running his units in. So I'm just speeding through the match. Don't worry, there's a follow-up to this story. So that's why I'm going through it rather quickly. And I do get to move this fun little APC down here. I get to block his units. This APC has been putting in work. Look, it's got the fuel icon. It's running low on fuel. It's been doing great. So let's just speed through the rest of this because you can see I have like a mass of units. I've got so many guys. And I have more income than him at this point, like not even just counting my 10% boost. I have more income, period. I'm going to be getting this property before him. I'm going to be getting this property before him. I'm going to be sending my battlecopters down afterwards so that I can interrupt these properties and maybe try to get him off them, or at least prevent him from going into my corner. So it's looking really grim. The match is over, especially when I do this. And I would get to block off his Neo tank. He can't even attack with the Neo tank. He's got to attack with the infantry first. It's so cute. It's so fun. And so I'll just speed through the rest of the game because he will resign. Really, resignation territory was like 2 turns ago, but there we go. That was Flamco's first game. And so after this, if I could bring up the message history, the logs. So I sent him a GG. Common courtesy. Normally I would send this in the match, but I wanted the messages to sort of transfer over. I will blur the rest of the logs. He asks, do you actually know me right here? I'll blur everything right here just because I'm not here to leak the DMs. But I tell him, by the way, feel free to battle me again once you can actually pose a challenge, you chump. Okay, well, I didn't say that. He says set up a game. Why would I set up a game? I just crushed you. This was your first game. You were not going to... So I tell him, I would crush you in any format with a handicap. Give yourself at least another 20 games. And that's where this sits. For 4 months. Now, it doesn't take 4 months to play 20 games. So I look at his profile about 4 months later. I see he's got a fat boot record. It wasn't this fat yet. It was not this fat yet. But he had like 60 some games. And I was thinking, you know what? His elo is like 850. I'm definitely going to beat him. But it's time. I got to make my content. This started in like March or whatever. And then the follow-up game is now July. Now it's Christmas, by the way. It's Christmas in real life. Hello, Merry Christmas. It's actually Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve. So I set it up on Dragons in the Dark, one of the greatest fog games of all time, one of the greatest fog maps of all time. You can see it's just got a ton of forest. You're not going to be able to see anything in the fog. And I set up this tier 1 match and invite him to it. Now he should have the advantage. It's tier 1. I did that so we would pick a tier 1 CO. He picks Max, who is tier 2. And if I'm being honest here, I think Olaf and Eagle are both better in tier 2. I picked Eagle. So Max has plus 20% firepower on all his direct units, but his indirect units are pretty much useless. They have -1 range, -10 attack. You don't build them. He's not going to build them. Don't worry. And his powers are that he gets an extra 1 and then 2 range, depending on which power, and an extra 20 and 40% firepower on top of his normal boost, I'm pretty sure. Which is insane. He can just run people over. It's really good, but he's tier 2 because A, he can't use his indirects, and B, well, this is a pretty good power. It requires that you actually have units to do with it. Like, he's a win more CO. He's not a comeback CO. Comeback COs are better than win more COs. Eagle gets stronger air units, weaker naval units. There are no naval units in this map. That's not going to be happening. So I get plus 15% attack on my copters and plus 10 defense on them, which is pretty nice, but not really against Max because the defense doesn't matter. It's pretty even matchup before the powers come out, which my normal power is useless. My normal power doesn't matter. You don't even need to know what it does. The superpower allows all my vehicles to move again. It's called Lightning Strike, and it's insane. So I give him the first turn, and he starts off with the infantry. This time it actually is the correct thing to do, and we actually mirror our build orders, which is really crazy. You can see here we're just going, I'm speeding through the capture phase because we're just going to be doing almost exactly the same thing. I think this is when it first deviates as he goes for the airport right here, where I just kind of go to the properties, which is a little weird because I'm the air CO, but whatever. I build a recon, he builds a recon, out the same bases. There are no replay files on the site for him, so it's just coincidence. And it actually goes to show how much he's capable as a player. Despite the fact that he's rated 700 for AFKing 24 times, he should be pretty high rated. This is like easily an opener that can carry you to 1,000 elo. There's no reason at this point why he shouldn't, be a much stronger player. Well, actually, there's one lie. I don't know why this infantry went down here, but that's a very minor thing. Like, he could still win the game very easily off this. So this continues a little bit. I build an artillery for my next opener, and I apologize for speeding through this, but nothing's happening. We don't even see each other. I finally get vision of him right here. This is the first time I see him with my recon, and I am not going to move that recon up. I'm sticking it right here. I'm going to be hiding it in the forests. because I just want to see. That's what recons are good for. They see so much stuff. This is their vision range. It's crazy. The third one, whoosh, so much vision. And so I just kind of want to keep it safe. So I will do that. But he will not, as we'll soon see. He's got a recon, and it's got a free target. It can hit that, take a nice shot. Oh, that's painful, dude. That hurts to look at. All right, I have no recourse for that. This is an amazing first play with the recon, and it's just, God, like, clearly there was something wrong with my opener to allow that to happen, because not only did I allow it to happen, I don't have any recourse on the next turn either. If I am to like continue moving up, like if I were to move this one out, I believe if I went this one like out, I would be in a bind. So I have to move this around. Not that it matters, but you know, this is like a terrible opening for me. I'm super pushed away from this area. I do have more income now, but he makes a huge blunder here. So he should pick up more income than me. He's going to be capturing these two properties. He's got a little bit more free reign up here because I see his copters and I can't expose my recon because I have no recourse to the copters. I have built an anti-air, which will get there eventually, but can't do anything about it now. I did a double tank opener, so I am a little bit behind, but I can be confident in knowing that this recon's all he's got down here. So at the very least, I feel a bit safe. I feel like, okay, I made a mistake. I messed up. I got punished. And it's actually not looking super good. But it's not over. I will get to take out this recon. And that's super nice. I get with the artillery, which was great placement by me for the artillery. I got to bring that in there. And I have to move this up here. It can't protect everything, though. This anti-air cannot protect this, but I had to go for it. I had to go for this, because if I don't go for this capture right here, I know I'm going to be too far behind in income. And so I pull my units back, and I start to form a wall. I want to protect my artillery, just in case there's anything, another recon scurrying around or something. And so I pulled myself together, but I am still on the back foot. Despite dealing a lot of damage with that recon, I'm on the back foot. And he... it's so painful to watch. I feel so embarrassed. This shot is another free shot for him. He has now gotten free shots on 2 of my infantry and gotten another shot on 1, almost killing it. And all it cost him was 1 recon. This is just insane. Like, the proficiency that he has shown in how he's been going about things. Maybe it's just good luck. Maybe, you know, it's beginner's luck or something like that. But it is really, really good, especially compared to his first performance. But he hasn't figured it out. He still hasn't figured it out. In fact, something very embarrassing has been taking place along the course of this game that I failed to point out. That's that he's got 4 battle copters. Generally, you build like 1 of them, and then you wait a couple turns, then you build another, and you want to keep like a steady flow of them to try to exploit when your opponent won't have anti-airs. Maybe you build some extras if you're a guy like Eagle. Maybe you don't if you're a guy like Drake. This is just bad. He's got 3, and he's got a transport copter, which is kind of uncalled for on this map. You don't need it. It's not a horrible play. You just don't need it. So I wouldn't, like, it's bad. So I finally get to pick up. I've got some guerrilla tactics here. You know, I see everything that's been going on. I've been waiting for my time to pounce. I let him have this property, basically. I let him have it. Even though I'm giving him this one as well. He's not in range of it yet. But I'm basically giving up both these properties because I want the unit advantage. I know I'm on the back foot income-wise, so I need to make sure that I use my gorillas, my little apes, my monkey bros to take out his units. And that's what I do. So now my anti-air is in, and I just kind of go all in with it because I'm like, I see all these copters. I've seen all 3 of them. So I know, I'm like, this guy doesn't have tanks. This guy might have 1. And I've protected this so well. He's not getting in here. All right? I'm totally safe. And I'm going to be able to take back the game right now. All right? I'm going to be able to destroy him. He gets trapped up here. So this infantry is goner. This infantry is going to be a goner, but I can't do it immediately because I see this. But he's able to break through with his double copter play here. Like, oosh, that's nice. That's nice. That's nice. And then he gets the anti-air on anti-air violence. Now, if this were a tank, this might have actually been a good play, but it's not. You don't. It's at 5 HP. The base damage of an anti-air against an aerial unit is like 115%. It's something like that. I have 2 comm towers. There's 2 comm towers, one here, one here. That's a bonus 20% on my firepower. Any copter I shoot with this anti-air is not gonna be sitting pretty. And then he goes in here. I don't know if I agree with those. Don't know. But really, the issue is that tanks. I said it before. Tanks are the butter. If infantry are the bread, tanks are the butter. You need tanks. There's 7,000 gold, and there's no easy way for your opponent to get rid of them. They need to build a medium tank that might be able to one-shot them. Maybe they get a neo tank. God forbid a mega tank. Those all cost more than twice what a tank costs. So there's no easy way to get rid of them. Copters are good. They're worth 9,000 sometimes, but you have to protect them very well. And that means that you don't want a lot of them, because if you have a lot of them, then there's just no way to protect them. There's no way to position all of your copters so that they're safe from an anti-air. If I have one anti-air, he's going to have a copter dead next turn. So, and that's kind of what happens. Like, boom, that copter gets hit by my copter, that copter gets debilitated. Pretty much 2 of his copters just died. They're still at 2 HP, but they're not going to be useful anymore. So, that's embarrassing. That's not something that, like, he just could have avoided that. Now I'm confident enough to take over this area because I've taken out now 3 infantry up here. I know that he doesn't have enough in reserves because this is his weak side. This is where he's far away from him. And he didn't build a copter on the last turn, so I know that this stuff is safe. The recon could have got hit, or the recon could have got hit. This could have gotten hit if he powered, but then he's taking this out of the fray. It's pretty safe. It's worth it. I'd do it again. So he's gonna hit some stuff, and then he uses his max force, so he can't wait till his superpower. That's okay. And he takes out this anti-air. No, he doesn't. Well, that's probably a better play, actually. So that's fine. That's fine. He gets trapped up here. Don't know what he was trying to do. Probably just wait there. But at this point, he's kind of taken his very strong advantage and fumbled it really hard. He had the game for a moment. He had it in his court, and he just dropped it. So at this point, I'm thinking maybe I can actually like get a lightning strike on my next turn here. So let me just keep going. I'm just going to keep pressuring. After the lightning strike, this game's going to be won. I know that I'm taking over this area and that I should be equal on income now. In fact, I'm almost above income. Once I take this, I'll be above income because he never got this one. So I'm feeling pretty confident, even though I'm going to get really hammered here with some awful engagements that I probably shouldn't have allowed. It's just that, game's kind of done. I kind of got you, man. And right here, I'm going to make some plays just so that I get the lightning strike, right? So I do that. I make a trade here and a trade here, and I almost have it. Oh, God, I'm so close. And I'm thinking like, oh, don't worry. I'll definitely get it with this engagement. So I do that, and of course I have it now. So I make all my moves, plan all out. I'm thinking maybe I don't need to use it, so I've actually positioned everything just in case. But then I use it anyway. All my units can move again. Boom, 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 boom. Best superpower in the game, hands down. Even though that was like a horrible use of it, really, I accomplished very little compared to what a normal lightning strike does. The difference in value in units speaks for itself. So he continues playing, he continues pushing on, and I'm like trolling him with the recon at this point here. And day 14 comes in, you know, I'm just moving in. It's actually going to be really hard for me to make an income advantage, to really move the game to a point where like I can actually move in on his bases, just because it's such a big fog map, and I've honestly had my units ruined by his offense. So I don't have like such a crushing advantage, despite the numbers showing like an insanely big advantage, like he should have resigned a long time ago type advantage in normal circumstance. But now I am starting to capitalize on it. You know, I'm starting to cap his properties. I've finally been able to do all this, and he uses a Max Blast, just one last ditch effort to try and get in the game. And then I take my turn, and you know what he does? You know what this sick freak does? Nothing. He does nothing. He times me out. Well, actually, he times himself out. He loses. It says it ends in a draw. It doesn't. He timed out. Let's look at that profile again. He's timed out of 24 games, 25 marking mine, maybe a few more if he was in some casual games at the time. I don't know what the criteria is for banning an account. Okay, I'm just going to stop right there. I do think, though, that there is something of value in this interaction, and I would be willing to play with Flamco again, assuming he ever gets good enough that he can pose a challenge, which is probably never. It's that even though Flamco is kind of a whack of a person, it's kind of an odd job, probably a lot of reasons to not like him, especially if you watched any of those videos that I had put up on screen at the start, but you don't have to harass him. I looked at this. I looked at one of his live broadcasts. This was the one. Tears of the Kingdom. It's got a ton of dislikes. Like, he's got comments where it's just like, why are you literally... Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing at this. The top comment is, why are you still alive with 18 upvotes? And it's just like, look, it's just not necessary to do that. It's not necessary to follow people around that you don't like on the internet and tell them that they should lightning strike themselves now. It's just not, you don't need to do that. It's okay to be cordial with people, even if they're awful people. You're not going to make the world better by being awful to them for no reason. And just to prove that I live up to the standard that I want to hold you guys to, I sent him a message after the game from your biggest fan. I want you to know that you've been sent a mission from God. You need to get with Amanda Lynn Ralph. Only you can tame that wild horse. It's time for total Flamalpha male domination. If you understand anything that I just said, you probably need to touch grass, but he does understand. And so he responds with, oh, I can't say that on YouTube, but oh, actually, no, there's something important. My next video, my next Advance Wars video anyway, is going to be how long do you think you can go undefeated in Advance Wars? This is a project that took me months. This is a project that took like 6 months to make. So you're going to want to see it. Bye.